why would you buy this boat? On the face of it, it does exactly the same thing as the Saxdor 400 and the Axopar 37, just without the brand recognition. So what's the motivation as a buyer? Well, it has to be very good and it has to offer something different. And Aiata, who builds the Wayfinder 38, may be a new brand, but it's owned by a multi-billion-dollar Turkish conglomerate. So there oughtn't be the usual concern with a new name about how long it might survive. And the design, well, that was done by Jarkko Jämsén, who also did the hull of the Axopar 37. So in trying to tackle the competition, Aiata has gone directly to the source. Make no mistake, these guys want to get into this sector in a big way. And as for the something different, well, we'll come to that later on, where we'll also be challenging its alleged 50-knot top speed. And before we do that, giving you a full tour in one of the prettiest bays on Mallorca. Let's go and do it. I'm Jack Haines, welcome to YachtBuyer. How about this, eh? It's days like this where you begin to understand why boats of this style are so popular in places like Mallorca. It is just glorious. And we're going to start here with the engines, because this is a bit of a point of difference amongst its competition, because they are numerous. You can have two Mercuries, 350 or 400 V10s. This one's got the 350s. You can have Honda, Suzuki, even the Yamaha 425. So more power than this one if you want, and plenty of different brands depending on your own personal choice. Now back here we've obviously got split platforms because it's an outboard boat, but these are a decent size. The boarding ladder is actually on the side there as part of the boarding gate, which I think works really well. We'll have a close look at that in a moment when we step into the cockpit. And some other things down here are the touch points, the initial impressions when you're interacting with stuff here. Things like even the shower, the deck shower. It seems simple, but that's a really nice component. It's not just some piece of cheap plastic. Obviously very handy to have that down here when you come out of the water. You fancy a quick rinse off. Even things like having pop-up cleats. You've got those on both sides as well. So you're already feeling like they're putting a bit of effort in with the things you're going to interact with day to day. And there's more of that as we step into the cockpit. And modularity on deck is one of the big things that Aiata offers with this model, and they really get into it when we move further in this area here underneath the Suntop. But let's start back here in the cockpit, because this is pretty flexible. You can have this completely open. If you like your fishing, water sports, you just want space back here, you can do that. You can have a more fishing-based wet bar as well, with rocket launchers and rod holders and a bait well. But I think this is a really good setup, because this obviously looks like a bench. However, it's also hiding the wet bar, which includes a fridge, a sink, and you've got the grill here. There's actually a bin on the end as well. So this is where you do your cooking aboard this boat. I'd say these gas rams could do with beefing up a bit. They're already, this is brand new, and they're looking like they're struggling a wee bit, and that's quite a heavy bit of kit. But in terms of, you know, the amount of equipment you've got back here, it's pretty good, and it gets over that hurdle that sometimes these types of boats have, which is supplying seating and a wet bar and enough space to sit. Well, they've done that by combining the two. Pretty clever. They've even thought of having a footrest down here, so when you're sitting and using this to dine, you've got somewhere to rest your feet. Incidentally, this entire thing slides as well, so you push a button, it pushes forward, and that allows you to raise the outboard safely without it colliding with the back of this unit. The table, well, that's nice, isn't it? It's talking about the touch points. These things, you're going to be interacting with this a lot. These lovely stainless steel railings, the tops are very high quality, and then it opens up, so when you are dining, you've got a nice amount of space here. It's in the shade at the moment, obviously, but if we were in the sun, you have got an extendable, as an option, canopy here. Push of a button, that comes all the way out and puts this area in complete shade, which is really valuable in a hot destination like Mallorca. There's yet more functionality as we move forward. So this drops down as well. They've created another footrest, which is also storage for the carbon fibre ladder, which is tucked in over there. So that also tucks away down there. Another fridge too. So you've got a drawer fridge to supplement what's back there. There's another one forward as well. But they've put the footrest there because, how about that? That flips over, and then you've got seating here that faces back out over the boat. And on a day like this, this is where you want to be looking. That water is gorgeous, and the table opens up. I'm a little bit far away, but you know what, given the functionality of the entire space, I'll let them off, because it is working quite hard, this area. And this is particularly clever because when you're traveling, you're going to want to have it in this position so that more people can face forward when you're on the move. In the intro, I mentioned that a boat like this has to offer something different when it comes to the market, and here we arrive at that something different, and that is the fact that you have a cabin and a Suntop version. That's pretty familiar, but you can actually switch between the two, so you can get the side panels, including sliding doors and windows, and a back panel that pops up, and you can add them either at the time when you buy it or later on, or you can have a summer with it like this as a Suntop, and then in the winter you can put the sides on and you've got yourself a cabin boat. It's not something you can do like that as the owner. It's going to take half a day and the dealer is going to have to help you, and you've got to think about where you're going to store those big mouldings, but potentially you're getting the best of both worlds there. I'd be interested to see what that process is like and how those panels wear if you do it over and over again over many seasons, but certainly as an idea, I think they might be onto something. Now this particular layout is really quite simple, but I talked about the modularity. You could add an extension here to make an L shape. You can add a table. You can add a mini galley as well, which has got a sink and a hob and a microwave. This boat, they kept it pretty clean. We've just got seating here. Obviously you've got your big table back there and the sunshade, so you can dine back there. And as I mentioned, you can flip this over both ways, so you can see that there in dining mode. But then when you're traveling, it's nice that you can get quite a few people across here and you can sit in comfort. You're facing forward, you're well supported, and you're well protected by the windscreen. Overhead there are a few options. You have a sunroof. This boat's fixed. People don't particularly want to be exposed to the sun all the time in a place like Mallorca, so that's fixed with solar panels on top. That's running in domestic ply to the extent that they don't actually plug this boat into shore power in the marina. They just rely on the energy created by the solar panels, which is quite handy. You can add a generator as well if you want to, air conditioning, a ski keeper even. This boat doesn't have those options, but they're all on the option list. Storage, very impressive. All the way along on both sides, there are hatches in the deck, all on gas rams, all lined, all drained. So if you're putting in kit, water sports fishing gear, putting ice in there, they are really, really flexible, and there's lots of them as well, so you're not short of storage on board this boat. And we're going to talk more about the Helm when we get out to sea, of course, but just some things I want to pick up is the sort of quality, again, of the things that you're seeing and you're feeling. The use of woodwork here. In terms of pricing, this is closer towards something like the Nimbus W11 than it is the Saxdor or the Axopar. So it is more expensive, but certainly on first impressions, it feels more expensive as well. It's a high quality machine, and they've put a lot of emphasis on the things that you're going to appreciate as you walk around the boat, as you touch them, as you feel them. These handholds are all timber. It's all really very thoughtfully done. Let's carry on forward. Something you notice walking around the boat is the freeboard, the height of these bulwarks, and also the beam. It's not quite as beamy as the Saxdor 400, it is beamier than the Nimbus and the Axopar, but what I really like is that you properly feel like you're on board it. Look how high this is. I've mentioned these nice touch points that come to hand. It's very easy to move forward. You've not got rails along here, but you don't feel like you need them because they're so high. Again, you pick up pop-up cleats. We've also got pop-in fenders here as well. You've not got railings, so that's why you need those. But the space to move around is really impressive, and this is another part of the design that I think really sets it apart, because look how much beam we've got right forward. You've got quite a slender hull design. Certainly the entry is slender, but of course the downside of that is that you are compromising space on deck and in the cabin below, but they've managed to really explode out the width of this bow area. So just look at the living space up here. This is absolutely lovely in terms of the bow area on a boat like this. And one thing this does lack at the moment is pure sunbathing space out aft. Really popular in the Med. You'll see people in these bays gravitate towards the back of their boats. They want to sit and look out over the water. You can't really do that at the moment. They are adding an option in the factory. So at the moment, this is really important because yes, it's a dining space. You can also convert this down into a sunpad, but also it's just a nice place to relax. They've got these set at a nice level. You know, it's not really a formal dining space because of the angle of these, but as a place to chill out, you can get a lot of people around here as well. You've got this nice wide bench too, facing forward. So this is a really sociable spot. Maybe not somewhere you want to be in the heat of the day, but of an evening in a bay like this, or if you're going back into the marina slowly, this is a really nice place to be. It's practical as well. You can see we've got our cup holders set into the cushions, which is quite nice. Nice railings all the way around. You can put a canopy up here as well, so you can get some shade if you need to. And yes, this is built in Turkey. It's designed by a Finn, and Finns refuse to build impractical boats, and this is sort of a microcosm of that. Nice flat forward deck area, making it very easy to get on and off if you're nosing into a beach, or into an island, the pop-up cleats reappear, but also either side of the anchor locker, there's space for all of the boat's fenders. I can't tell you how useful that is on a boat like this, not having to worry about where you're going to put the fenders every time you go to sea. They all just swallowed in there, they clip in along the deck, they make it very, very easy. Centrally as well, lovely big anchor locker. It's all hidden away, but that's nice and deep. You can still get down to the windlass, that's covered as well, but it's out the way. You're not going to be stubbing your toes if you want to jump off here, if you're moving around forward. They've really thought about that, and you've got your windlass control down there as well. It's simple, but it works really nicely. Let's head downstairs and have a look at the accommodation. If you're thinking you can just hurry up and get to the driving section, don't worry, this boat won't take long. The accommodation is not exhaustive, typical of this type of boat really. What I would say is you haven't got the option to have an aft cabin like you have on the Saxtor 400 or the Axopar 37, so if you want to be able to sleep 4 adults, this isn't really the boat for you. For sleeping 2, perfectly fine. There's an extra very thin berth down here. I mean, this is a sofa that they say can be a single berth, but it's pretty tight, okay for a kid, but you're not going to want to have an adult sleeping down there. As you can see, you know, the berth is reasonably wide. It does taper off towards the top, and you can see there's some intrusion here. However, there is a version without as much seating on the bow where you have increased headroom in this forward section. So if you want to be able to sit up in bed and read, and you're going to spend more time down here, then you probably want that version. If you're going to be in the med, living on deck, you probably don't care too much about that. As I said earlier on, there is the option to have air conditioning down here. This particular boat hasn't got it, so you're relying on these vents and also a fan down there. However, it has got a bit of a trick up its sleeve because if I push this button, look at that. Whole thing rises up. It's not really for access. It's not like the gull-wing doors, not quite as cool as the gull-wing doors on the Axopar, and you can't really get down here that easily using that, but it's more for ventilation, natural light. If you are down here, it's nice. You can pop that open and get some of the breeze running down in here. What else we got? Well, it's nicely finished. Like up there, the stuff that you come into contact with is nicely done. This teak finish is lovely. There's a lighter oak version as well. There's bits of storage dotted around all over the place. There's no galley or anything like that down here. That's all up on deck, but you've got the nice underlighting. You've got reading lights here. There's a bit of hull window either side. Storage cubbies with chargers on both sides as well. And there's a hanging locker of sorts over on this side. There's a drawer underneath the bed, and you can lift this up. You can see it's all nicely finished in teak underneath here as well, and you get access to the bow thruster battery, that sort of stuff. Probably the most important thing on a boat like this to be used in the med is the quality of the bathroom, and this is really nice because it's got well over 6 feet of headroom. There's a glass panel forward of the helm as well, so natural light is plentiful. It's decked out in teak. You've got an electric toilet, plenty of storage. That's a really nice compartment. Right, that's enough waffle about bathrooms. Let's go and drive it. Right, let's not mess around. Let's get up to speed. 700 horsepower back there, pair of V10s. Nice little roar as I open the taps. 20 knots, 25 knots, and we are up towards cruising speed. That is potent. And actually, we've got that sort of light afternoon swell that often kicks up in the Balearics. Really what these types of boats are designed for, and it's a Jarkko Jämsén hull as I mentioned in the intro, so let's see what it can do, shall we? Yeah, there's just a sure-footedness there. You instantly feel like it's going to look after you and be predictable even when you're doing slightly silly things. There's a slight concern with stepped hulls that you might lose a bit of grip when you're really challenging it, but this feels properly glued to the water. That's now pretty much full lock, wide open throttle, and it really digs in beautifully. I've got it in single lever mode, so I can just rest my hand on the base of the throttle, feed the power in, and I tell you what, having that lovely wide bow gives you real confidence. There's no spray coming on board at all. It's not that rough, but you know, there is a rolling swell here, gentle rolling swell, and it just loves it. We're going into it now, gliding over it really comfortably. It feels very solid. There's a lot of moving parts on this boat, even more so if you have the optional cabin sides. I thought there might be a bit of rattling and banging and creaking, but it does feel as solid as it looks when you interact with it on board. You hope that translates the driving experience, and it does. A few more turns. Yeah, it's just lovely and controllable, predictable. I don't expect owners going to be doing this, but this is a water sports machine. You can put a towing eye on the back and maybe, you know, turning hard to collect skiers. Water sports, the boat has to be agile, powerful out the hole, it does all those things. But you're also really well protected by this windscreen. You know, on longer jaunts where you're going to be cruising at 30 knots, because that's where you want to be, that's where it's most efficient, much like its rivals, designed to cruise at higher speeds. It gets very tiring if you're being absolutely battered by the wind, but you're not, because you've got this wonderful protection. Yes, it's open, yes, I can feel the breeze, but I'm not being pounded in the face. I really like that. If you do just want to go straight and settle down, it feels great. You've got a range of about 190 nautical miles at 28 knots. I'd want to be seeing more like 250 nautical miles, really. That seems a little bit low to me. But there's no penalty really in going faster. It's happier 28, 30 knots, that's where you want to be cruising this thing. And it will allegedly top out at 50 knots, so we're just going to turn down swell a bit so it's a bit more comfortable for the man behind the camera, and then we'll open the taps and see what it can do. I've got the auto trim on, so the engine should just take care of that. Down swell now, wide open throttle, 35 knots, 37. I'm going to take over the trim because sometimes the trim can be a little bit, not quite give it enough. Turn around now, that's 45 knots. I don't think we're going to hit the 49.50, which has been in the water a bit, so we may have a bit of a dirty bottom, so we're a little way off. But yeah, that's 45 knots maxed out. Don't think we're going to do much better than that. Still, respectable, and much the same as the rest of the sector. And as I said in the tour, there are bigger engines. You know, you can have twin 400s, twin 425s, so if you really want more top end, stick those bigger engines on it. Really, whatever you go for though, you're cruising at 30 knots, so I don't see a huge amount of point in having the bigger engines. This Mercury package works so well, the throttles are lovely, as we've seen, the joystick's brilliant. And what about the position? The wheels are a little bit offset, so I feel like I'm twisting a touch, which is a little bit annoying. And I'm a touch too low, there's no adjustment on this. This swings over, like the ones back there, but I can't bolster myself up. There is a footrest, but yeah, I could just do with being a little bit higher. If you're shorter than 6 foot, I think sitting down you're going to be struggling to see over the bow. Of course you can stand, but it's not got a bolster. So the driving position is not as good as the Axopar, the Quark and the Saxtor. Just needs a bit more work on that helm seat. I like the dash though, nice and clean, tall, everything's presented really nicely. 2 AMDs so you can spit your information. Nice and dark too, so there's no glare. The main thing for me is the protection. You could do a long journey in this and you would feel nice and relaxed. You're not getting hammered by the breeze. I like that. And you know, when the wind picks up, you need a bit of protection. There's no spray, but at the end of the day, it's nice that you've got this amount of protection from what is an open boat. Yeah, impressive. Not particularly challenging conditions, that light swell, but certainly feels very, very capable. As we head on in, it gives me a chance to talk about pricing in a little bit more detail. The base boat as the Suntop is €210,000, but if you want one like this to this spec, you're looking at more like €420,000, excluding VAT. So as I said, to the higher end of the price spectrum within this sector, but it does feel like a pretty high quality product, so you can sort of see where that money's going. Lots more detail in the written review, and you can also directly compare it to its rivals on YachtBuyer.com. So watch this video, then head over there and do that. So at the moment, I am just on the throttles. We've got the twin Mercury 350s. As a €20,000 option, you get the joystick with Skyhook. It's a punchy option, but I think it's well worth it. As I said, I imagine this maybe could be someone's first boat, second boat. You know, quite a big boat with outboards, having the joystick control, and it's really good with the Mercury system. So I'm just edging us in on the throttles now. As we get a bit closer, I will convert over to the joystick. What is quite nice is anyone who's watched my videos knows that I always recommend a bow thruster, even with joystick control. You definitely want one in the Med. Well, this comes as standard on the Aiata. It's another thing, you know, it's expensive, but it does come with some bits of standard that maybe you'd have to pay for as extras on other boats in the sector, such as the bow thruster, zip wake, That's the trim system. So the thing about this system is you don't actually have to physically switch between throttles and joystick. I'm in neutral now, and then the joystick just comes to life. So I can immediately take over control of the joystick. I'm going to pop the bow thruster on just in case. We're in the med, so there's no current, and there's very light winds, but I'd always have the bow thruster active just in case. I mentioned you get Skyhook as part of the package. So before we go inside, I'm just going to nose into the berth on our starboard side here. But say I was this close and I hadn't put the fenders out, I can just come to a stop, hit Skyhook, and it takes a second, engines engage, and it's now going to hold in the air. So if you want to move around the boat, you know, there's two of you, one of you, you can do all that and you know the boat isn't going to move, even in these close quarters scenarios. Take it off, and move it sideways a bit, twist. I'm going to go bow in because that's often, with an outboard boat, how you're going to go in a med berth. And I mentioned about having that flat forepeak that they've got on this boat, and that's one of the benefits. Just nudge it forward just to make sure we've not got the lazy lines behind us. Give her a little twist. And this is quite a big berth, but just lost the stern a bit, so I'll just straighten her up and then move the whole thing sideways. Little bit of breeze on the port beam here, and then we'll just edge in. It's easy. I won't go in too far because we'll go back out again, but simple as that. And then to come back out again, you do it in reverse. So I'll just edge her back, whole stick to port to get us to move to port a bit more. Edge far enough back, I'll twist the whole thing to starboard and we'll go out. But nothing happens too quickly. You just feel very in control. And you know, this is not unique to Aiata. Its rivals have outboards and joysticks, but this type of boat where you are, you know, potentially new to this world, it just gives you so much confidence. Buying into an unknown brand is always a bit of a leap of faith, even one as well backed as Aiata is, and there's no point coming into such a competitive sector and rehashing what has already been done. But the benefit of being slightly late to the party is you can see what the competition's doing and then do something a bit different, and that's what this boat is. There's a maturity to this boat, a solidity. The air is something that will look after you and punch above its weight if it gets a bit nasty out there. Only time will tell if this is a successful formula, but the signs are certainly pretty promising. But let me know what you think of it in the comments below, and if you're in the market for a 40-foot adventure boat, which one you'd go for. I'll be interested to know. Thanks for watching that review. I hope you enjoyed it. Please give us a like if you did. If you'd like to watch a head-to-head test of two of this boat's rivals, the Kraken 35 and the Whalecraft 355, I raced them with Nick Burnham. I'll put that video up here. If you'd like to subscribe to YachtBuyer, you can do that up here. Thanks again for watching. I'm Jarkko Jämsén. This is YachtBuyer.